"You're too dramatic for an event as refined as this," my mom said, her voice laced with that familiar tone of disapproval I'd known all my life. She stood in my kitchen, arms folded, looking at me as if I were some kind of problem she needed to handle. "Cousin Stephanie's wedding will be elegant and sophisticated. We can't risk you creating a scene." I slowly set down my coffee mug, trying to absorb her words. My entire family had been invited to Stephanie's destination wedding in Napa Valley. Everyone except me. My name is Jennifer. I'm 27 years old and work as a social media manager for a boutique marketing agency in Portland, Oregon. I've always been the family's odd one out, the person who spoke up when things were unfair, who pointed out hypocrisy when I saw it. Somehow that made me dramatic. "I wish them the best," I replied evenly, surprising even myself with how calm I sounded. Inside, though, I was shaken. This wasn't just about missing a wedding. It was about being intentionally excluded because my own mother believed I was too much trouble. Mom shifted uneasily, clearly expecting more of a reaction. "It's nothing personal, Jennifer. Stephanie just wants a drama-free celebration. And you know how you can get when you're worked up about things. How I could get, like the time I called out my uncle for making racist remarks at Christmas, or when I defended my cousin Maya as everyone gossiped about her divorce. Apparently, standing up for what's right made me the family's troublemaker. When is it?" I asked in a steady voice. "Next weekend. It's a 3-day event at a vineyard. Welcome drinks, ceremony, and a reception that'll go till dawn." She spoke with excitement about an event I wasn't even invited to. "Your Aunt Helen says it'll be featured in a wedding magazine," she added proudly. Of course it would be. Stephanie had always been the golden child, beautiful, successful, with a picture-perfect life everyone admired. Now she was having the kind of wedding designed for glossy spreads and social media perfection. "That sounds wonderful," I said. "I'm sure you'll all have a great time." My mom looked surprised by my calmness. She had clearly expected tears or arguments, something that would confirm her belief that I didn't belong at classy family gatherings. "You're not upset?" she asked cautiously. "Why would I be? You've made it clear my presence would spoil the event. I respect Stephanie's wishes." I picked up my phone and started checking my calendar, pretending to make plans for that weekend. The truth was, I was deeply hurt. But I'd learned long ago that showing emotion only gave my family more reasons to label me as unstable. They needed me to be the dramatic one so they could justify treating me like an outsider. Mom lingered a few more minutes, waiting for a reaction that never came. Then she muttered something about going to the airport to help with wedding preparations and left. When she was gone, I sank into the couch, letting the reality sink in. My own family had decided I wasn't worthy of being included. They'd planned everything: meetings, invitations, flights, hotels, all while intentionally leaving me out. I thought of all the family gatherings I'd attended over the years, all the times I'd stayed quiet while relatives said things that made my skin crawl, all the effort I'd made to maintain connections with people who clearly didn't value me. But as the sadness settled, something else began to rise, a small, defiant spark. They thought I was dramatic, that I'd ruin their perfect day. I opened Instagram and scrolled through Stephanie's page. Her engagement photos were flawless, professional shots that looked straight out of a bridal magazine. The wedding hashtag was already trending among family and friends. Every detail looked calculated to display their perfect lives. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend. "Drinks tonight?" "I've got news," I smiled for the first time all day. Chloe had impeccable timing. She was a wedding photographer, one of the most in demand on the West Coast, and had been swamped with work lately. "Definitely," I texted back. "I have news too." That evening, we met at our usual wine bar in the Pearl District. Chloe was practically glowing when I arrived. "You won't believe what just happened," she said, barely letting me sit. "I booked an incredible last-minute wedding, dream venue, unlimited budget, and they want it to go viral. The couple saw my work and hired me immediately." "That's amazing," I said sincerely. "When is it?" "Next weekend," she replied. "It's short notice, but they're paying triple my normal rate." She paused, studying my face. "Wait, why do you look like someone just hurt your feelings?" I told her everything about being excluded from the family, called too dramatic, and missing Stephanie's picture-perfect wedding because my mother thought I was an embarrassment. As I spoke, Chloe's expression grew darker. "You're kidding. They left you out of a family wedding because you spoke your mind?" I wasn't technically invited, I corrected. They just made sure I knew I shouldn't come. This is ridiculous, she said, shaking her head. You've always been loyal and this is how they treat you? Chloe looked genuinely upset. You know what? Forget them. Come with me to the wedding I'm covering next weekend. It's going to be incredible. The thought of attending a stranger's wedding just to escape my family's rejection felt both strange and tempting. But Chloe wasn't backing down. I mean it, she insisted, leaning forward with that determined look she got whenever she had a plan. The couple wants their photographer's creative vision to shine. They're all about authentic artistic shots. Having you as my assistant would be perfect. I don't know anything about wedding photography, I protested. You don't need to, she replied. You understand social media and know what makes content engaging. I could really use someone to handle behind-the-scenes coverage. The couple wants full content for their social platforms. The more she explained, the more interested I became. I'd worked in social media long enough to understand what made content go viral, and wedding moments, when captured right, could be powerful. The idea of focusing on someone else's happiness instead of my family's rejection felt oddly refreshing. Where's the wedding? I asked. Multnomah Falls, she said. They've booked the whole lodge and are having the ceremony right by the waterfall. It's going to be magical. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. The bride's an influencer and the groom owns a tech company. They got engaged after 6 months and didn't want to wait to start their lives together. There was something admirable about that. 2 people who knew what they wanted and acted on it, instead of playing games or chasing appearances, like my own family always did. What time does it start? I asked. Saturday at 2 p.m. Perfect for golden hour photos. Then the reception goes until midnight, Saturday afternoon. The same time as Stephanie's wedding in Napa Valley. While my family celebrated without me, I could be capturing genuine joy and helping create something meaningful. You know what? I'm in, I said. The decision felt right instantly. Chloe grinned. Amazing. I'll let the couple know I'm bringing extra support for their social content. They'll love it. We spent the rest of the evening planning. She explained her photography style, the schedule, and ideas for behind-the-scenes coverage. She mentioned the bride wanted all content ready for immediate sharing, since the couple hoped to use their wedding as a launch for a joint business project. By the time we wrapped up, I felt more motivated than I had in weeks. Instead of feeling sorry for myself, I'd be contributing to something creative, something far removed from my family's drama. The following days passed quickly in preparation. I researched the venue, explored trending wedding hashtags, and built a strategy to help the couple expand their reach. Slowly, my thoughts drifted away from Stephanie's wedding and toward the possibilities ahead. Then, on Thursday evening, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Helen, Stephanie's mother. Jennifer, sweetheart, she began, her voice laced with artificial concern. I heard about the wedding situation. I want you to understand, it wasn't personal. Stephanie just likes things to be perfect. And you know how easily you take things to heart when it comes to family matters. Sensitive, right? Another way of saying a bit dramatic, just phrased more politely. I completely understand, I replied. I hope she has a beautiful day. You're being so mature about this, Aunt Helen said. I'm proud of how you're handling everything. She sounded genuinely surprised. Maybe this will be a good lesson for you, about being more flexible with family expectations. I stopped myself from saying what first came to mind. Instead, I said, I'm actually working that weekend anyway, so it all worked out. Working on a Saturday? She asked. Yes, I replied. I'm helping with a wedding. It's a professional development opportunity. I kept my tone calm and pleasant, giving her nothing to criticize. When I hung up, I realized something had changed. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was focused on something exciting, something that had nothing to do with trying to prove myself to people who had already made up their minds about me. On Friday morning, Chloe and I met at her studio to review the equipment and final details. She'd spoken with the couple, and they were thrilled to have extra help with their social media coverage. They said they want their wedding to inspire others, Chloe mentioned as we packed her camera gear. They're not trying to show off, they just want to share their happiness. The difference between their approach and my family's couldn't have been clearer. Stephanie's wedding was all about image and status, about curating a flawless picture for magazines and social media. This couple simply wanted to celebrate genuine joy. Did you check the forecast? Chloe asked. It's supposed to be perfect. Sunny, 75 degree with a light breeze. The lighting by the waterfall will be incredible. I opened Instagram and scrolled through my cousin's posts, airport selfies, elegant hotel shots, and behind-the-scenes glimpses of wedding preparations. They were all using Stephanie's custom hashtag, building a picture-perfect feed of their weekend in Napa Valley. Then it hit me. My heart quickened with realization. They weren't the only ones who could create engaging content. I took screenshots of their posts, noting the angles, lighting, and captions. Professional instinct, I told myself, but deep down, I knew it was something more. Ready to make something amazing tomorrow? Chloe asked, hoisting her camera bag. More than ready, I said. And I meant it. Saturday morning arrived clear and bright, just as predicted. I woke up energized, feeling a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. While my family was likely enjoying a lavish brunch in Napa, I was preparing for something that felt far more meaningful. Chloe picked me up at 10 a.m., her car loaded with equipment. As we drove through the Columbia River Gorge, we went over our plan one more time. I've been thinking about the social media strategy, I said. This location is already stunning, but what if we focus on capturing the real emotions instead of just perfect images? People connect more with authenticity than perfection. That's exactly my thought, Chloe agreed. This couple's connection is so genuine. I want to capture that, not just stage them in pretty settings. When we arrived at the lodge, I was surprised by the calm, welcoming atmosphere. No stressed coordinators or tense family discussions, just quiet excitement. Everyone seemed happy to be there. The bride, Jasmine, was getting ready in one of the lodge suites with her sister and best friend. No massive bridal party or crowded beauty teams, just simple, joyful moments with the people she cared about most. You must be Jennifer, Jasmine said when Chloe introduced us. Thank you for helping out. I know it's last minute, but having someone who understands social media is exactly what we needed. She looked stunning in a flowing, fairy tale-like dress, but what stood out most was how calm and joyful she seemed. There was no trace of stress or obsession with perfection. She was simply happy to be marrying the person she loved. Tell me about your vision for sharing this day, I said, taking out my phone for notes. We want people to see that love doesn't need to be complicated or expensive to be meaningful, Jasmine explained. We planned this wedding in 6 weeks because we realized we were spending more time talking about getting married than actually being engaged. We want other couples to know it's okay to focus on your relationship rather than other people's expectations. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was a couple who valued authenticity over appearances, while my own family had distanced themselves from me for being too real for their carefully crafted image. I spent the morning capturing behind-the-scenes moments as Jasmine and her small bridal party prepared for the ceremony. The natural light filtering through the lodge windows was ideal, and every shot felt genuine and effortless. For the first time in years, I found myself thinking about composition and storytelling like I used to back in college, when I had briefly considered majoring in photography before switching to marketing. Meanwhile, Chloe worked with the groom Oliver and his friends as they got ready. From what I could see through the windows, they were relaxed and enjoying themselves, laughing and sharing memories instead of worrying about appearances. At 1:30 p.m., we made our way to the ceremony site by the waterfall. I had seen Multnomah Falls many times before, but never as a wedding venue. The natural beauty of the cascading water and rich greenery formed a setting no decoration could rival. As guests arrived, I noticed how diverse and genuinely joyful the crowd was. These weren't people attending out of duty or social pressure. They were loved ones who clearly cherished the couple and were eager to celebrate with them. I began taking candid shots of the guests, capturing their reactions as they took in the stunning setup. The combination of the breathtaking surroundings and the intimate scale of the gathering created a mood that felt both magical and sincere. At exactly 2 p.m., the ceremony began. Oliver stood at the altar, tears in his eyes, as Jasmine walked down the aisle, not to the traditional wedding march, but to an acoustic version of the song they had danced to on their first date. The choice felt deeply personal and meaningful. As I viewed the scene through my camera lens, I couldn't help but think of what was happening 300 meters south. Stephanie was likely walking down her own aisle, surrounded by extravagant floral displays and guests dressed in designer clothes. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Yet what struck me most was the emotion. Jasmine and Oliver couldn't take their eyes off each other, smiling constantly, barely holding back tears as they exchanged vows. Their happiness was so pure and contagious that I found myself emotional behind the camera. When they finally kissed and were pronounced married, the crowd burst into cheers that echoed against the waterfall. It was genuine celebration, simple and free from any performance. I captured every detail, from the flower petals tossed in the air to the spontaneous group hug that surrounded the couple. During the cocktail hour, I began editing and uploading some of the photos. I wrote captions that emphasized the real emotion and natural beauty of the day, using hashtags aimed at people who appreciated intimate weddings and authentic love stories. The reaction was immediate and heartfelt. Within an hour, the posts had gathered hundreds of likes and comments from viewers touched by the sincerity of what they saw. Strangers were sharing the images, calling them a refreshing reminder that weddings can focus on love instead of display. "This is exactly what we wanted," Oliver told me during the reception. "We hoped people would realize that a meaningful wedding doesn't require a huge budget or unnecessary stress. All that truly matters is focusing on what's real." As the evening went on, the energy on social media kept growing. The photos were being shared across different platforms, with people commenting on how genuine and beautiful the celebration looked. Several wedding blogs had already reached out, asking for permission to feature the event. I found myself completely immersed in the creative process, capturing and sharing something that felt truly meaningful. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't focused on my family's rejection or my own hurt feelings. My attention was on something larger than myself, something that was spreading happiness to thousands of strangers. As the reception came alive with dancing under string lights and laughter echoing through the lodge, I realized something within me had changed. I wasn't upset about missing Stephanie's wedding anymore. Instead, I felt grateful. If I had gone to Napa Valley for yet another family gathering where I had to restrain my words and tone down who I was, I never would have experienced this moment, something so sincere and joyful. My phone buzzed with notifications as the posts gained more traction, but what truly caught my attention was a text from my mom. "Saw your posts. Looks beautiful. Call me tomorrow." I smiled and put the phone away. Tomorrow could wait. Tonight was about celebrating love and authenticity, and I wasn't going to let family tension take that away. Sunday morning brought a realization that changed everything. I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop with notifications. When I checked the post analytics, I could hardly believe it. Jasmine and Oliver's wedding content had gone viral overnight. What started with a few hundred likes had turned into tens of thousands of views. The main ceremony video had over 50,000 views, and engagement was climbing fast. Comments were pouring in from people all around the world, sharing their own stories about choosing honesty and simplicity over expectations in their relationships. But it wasn't just the numbers that mattered. It was the tone of the comments. People weren't just admiring pretty pictures. They were genuinely touched by the story. Couples were tagging each other, saying things like, "This is what I want our wedding to be. Simple, joyful, and real." I took screenshots of the analytics and sent them to Chloe, who called me immediately. "Jennifer, this is unbelievable," she said, her voice still groggy. "I've never seen wedding content perform like this. My business inquiries have tripled overnight." "It's because it felt real," I replied, scrolling through more comments. People want authenticity. They're tired of weddings that look perfect but feel hollow. While I was talking to Chloe, another call came in. It was Jasmine. "I'll call you back," I told Chloe, switching lines. "Jennifer, I don't know what you did, but our wedding is everywhere," Jasmine said, laughing in disbelief. "Oliver and I woke up to messages from people all over the world. Wedding planners want to feature our story, and we've even received inquiries about our new business. This is beyond anything we expected." I explained the reach and engagement the post had received and how people connected with the genuine storytelling and something refreshing in today's curated feeds. "Would it be okay if I kept sharing more of the content over the next few days?" I asked. "I think this story can inspire other couples to rethink traditional wedding expectations." "Absolutely," Jasmine said without hesitation. "Oliver and I talked this morning, and we'd like to hire you officially. Would you be interested in managing our social media as we launch our new venture?" The offer was tempting, though I already had a full-time job. Still, the success of this project had reignited something in me, a sense of purpose and creativity that truly mattered. After I hung up, I spent time crafting follow-up posts to keep the momentum alive. I shared behind-the-scenes moments, vendor highlights, and quotes from Jasmine and Oliver about their views on love and marriage. Each post performed even better than the last. By noon, the wedding hashtag I'd created was trending locally, and several major wedding accounts had reposted our content to millions of followers. That's when the calls from my family began. The first was from my cousin Maya, who had attended Stephanie's wedding. "Jennifer, what's this wedding you've been posting about?" she asked, her voice carrying something I couldn't quite place. "It's all over my feed. Everyone's talking about how beautiful and authentic it is." "I helped photograph a wedding yesterday," I replied simply. "The couple was wonderful, and their story connected deeply with people yesterday. But that was during Stephanie's wedding. How did you even end up at another wedding?" There was a hint of accusation in her voice that I didn't appreciate, as if I had gone out of my way to create competition for Stephanie's big day. My friend, a photographer, needed help managing social media content. It worked out perfectly since I hadn't been invited to Stephanie's wedding anyway. Maya paused for a moment. "Your posts are getting more engagement than Stephanie's wedding content. A lot more." That's when I realized what had happened. While I had been focused on celebrating Jasmine and Oliver's genuine love story, my family had been busy promoting Stephanie's elaborate event. Their carefully crafted posts about a picture-perfect Napa Valley wedding were being overshadowed by our sincere, heartfelt moments from Multnomah Falls. "That's not really my concern," I said, though I couldn't help feeling a small sense of satisfaction. I was just doing my job. After Maya ended the call, curiosity made me check Stephanie's wedding hashtag. The photos were stunning, elegant, meticulously arranged, exactly what you'd expect from a luxury destination wedding. Yet engagement was surprisingly low considering the effort and expense behind it. The comments were polite but impersonal, the kind you leave when you feel obliged to respond rather than truly moved by something. Then my phone rang again. This time it was my mother. "Jennifer, I need to understand what's happening," she said immediately. "Your cousin's wedding posts are being overshadowed by another wedding from the same day. People are commenting on Stephanie's photos, asking why her event didn't feel as authentic as the other. One, her frustration was clear. She couldn't grasp how the family's perfectly orchestrated celebration had been outshined by something they hadn't even known about. "I was working," I said evenly. "I helped document a beautiful wedding, and people connected with the story." "But people are comparing them, Jennifer," she insisted. "They're saying that this other wedding looked more meaningful than Stephanie's. Some are even criticizing how much money was spent on decorations when the other couple kept things so simple yet beautiful." The irony wasn't lost on me. My family had left me out because they assumed I'd bring drama to their elegant affair. Yet, by simply doing my job and sharing something genuine, I'd unintentionally made their expensive production seem shallow by comparison. "I'm sorry people are making comparisons," I said, though I didn't mean it. "That wasn't my intention." "Well, what was your intention? Because from my view, it looks like you tried to upstage Stephanie's wedding." There it was, the accusation I'd expected. Even when I stayed away, even when I was supportive, I was somehow still at fault. "My intention was to do my job well," I replied, allowing a hint of firmness into my tone. "I helped share a couple's story in a way that resonated with others. The fact that it happened on the same day as Stephanie's wedding was just coincidence. Jennifer, you have to understand how this looks. People are talking about how much more meaningful that other wedding seemed. It's embarrassing for Stephanie." "Maybe the issue isn't that I shared something beautiful," I said, my patience wearing thin. "Maybe the problem is that you're all too focused on appearances and status to see what actually matters to people." There was a long silence. "Can't believe how insensitive you're being," my mother finally said. "Stephanie is family. You should be supporting her, not competing with her." "I wasn't competing with anyone," I answered calmly. "I was excluded from her celebration, remember? You said I was too dramatic for a classy event. So I spent my time doing something meaningful instead." "But now it looks like what?" I interrupted. "That I'm capable of creating something authentic and beautiful without your approval? That maybe the person you thought was too dramatic actually has something valuable to offer?" I could hear her sharp inhale, but I wasn't finished speaking. "You know what, Mom? I spent years trying to make myself smaller just so you wouldn't feel embarrassed by me. I watched every word, softened my personality, and let everyone treat me like I was some kind of burden. Yet even then, you decided I wasn't good enough to be included in a family celebration. That's not what happened. It is exactly what happened. You thought I'd cause trouble, so you left me out. And while you were enjoying your flawless, drama-free wedding, I was creating something that actually touched people's hearts. Something real. The silence between us grew heavy with years of unspoken tension and hurt. So what happens now? My mother finally asked, her voice quieter than before. Now I keep doing the work that matters to me, I said. And maybe you all figure out why an amateur social media manager connected with more people than your picture-perfect magazine-style celebration. I hung up before she could answer, my heart pounding. I'd never spoken to her that way before, never directly challenged the family dynamic that made me feel like an outsider all my life. But instead of guilt, I felt something new. Freedom. That afternoon, calls poured in from family members, each with their own version of concern. By the fourth call, I stopped answering familiar numbers and let everything go to voicemail. Still, I couldn't ignore the results. The wedding content kept climbing, nearly 100,000 views across all platforms. Wedding planners, photographers, and venues were reaching out to both Jasmine and me, asking to collaborate or feature our story. The hashtag had grown from a local trend to a national conversation. More importantly, the comments were shifting, from simple praise to deeper reflections on what weddings should truly represent. People shared how they'd felt pressured into expensive, showy events that didn't align with their values. Others talked about choosing modest ceremonies and feeling judged for it. I realized I was now part of a conversation I never planned to start, but one that clearly needed to happen. Around 3 p.m., Clue showed up at my apartment with coffee and pastries, looking as overwhelmed as I felt. "My phone hasn't stopped ringing," she said, dropping onto my couch. "I've had more business inquiries today than in an entire month. But I also got a call you need to hear about." "From who?" "A producer from a lifestyle show. They want to feature a segment on authentic weddings versus traditional extravagant ones. They specifically mentioned your social media strategy and how your content went viral." I stared at her. "They want to interview me?" "They want both of us, plus Jasmine and Oliver. The segment focuses on how genuine emotion and authentic storytelling can be more powerful than luxury productions." Chloe paused, studying my reaction. "But here's what's interesting. They also reached out to your cousin about featuring her wedding as the contrast example." My stomach dropped. "What?" Apparently, someone on the show saw both weddings trending and thought it'd make great television. 2 different takes on celebration. And viewers decide which one feels more meaningful. I could only imagine my family's reaction. The idea of their high-end traditional wedding being compared to my genuine small-scale version would be their worst nightmare. Did Stephanie agree? From what I heard, she declined. But the producers think that only makes the story more intriguing. They're calling it the wedding that went viral while the family watched. The irony stung. They'd excluded me to avoid drama, yet their perfect celebration had created more drama than ever. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Stephanie." "We need to talk." I showed Chloe and she raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to reply?" "I don't know." What could she possibly want now? Still, I was curious. Stephanie and I were never close, but we were never enemies either. She was 8 years older and always existed in a different tier of the family. I decided to call her back. "Jennifer, thank you for calling," Stephanie said when she answered. Her voice was polite but strained. "What did you want to talk about?" I asked. I just wanted to understand what happened, from my side. Yesterday was my wedding, it was beautiful, and then I woke up to find another wedding trending being compared to mine, and not in a good way. Her voice carried a mix of disbelief and hurt. Despite her confidence and privilege, she sounded genuinely lost about why her celebration hadn't received the response she'd hoped for. "Stephanie, I wasn't trying to compete with your wedding. I had no idea the content would go viral like this, but it did. Well, now people are saying that your friend's wedding was more heartfelt and authentic. They're calling mine expensive but empty." Her voice cracked slightly, and to my surprise, I felt a pang of sympathy. "I'm sorry people are making those comparisons," I said sincerely. "That was never my intention." "Then what was your intention?" she asked. "Because from where I stand, it looks like you purposely created something to overshadow my day." It was the same accusation my mother had made. But this time it sounded less angry and more confused. My only goal was to help my friend capture her wedding beautifully, to tell their story in a way that made them happy. The timing was pure coincidence. "But you knew our wedding was happening," she said quietly. You knew the family would be posting about it. Yes, I admitted. And I also knew I wasn't invited to be part of it. Stephanie went silent for a moment. That wasn't my decision alone, she finally said. Then whose decision was it? I asked. The family thought there might be tension. You've been very outspoken lately, and we wanted to keep things peaceful. So, you chose to leave me out instead of addressing the concerns directly? We just thought it would be easier for everyone, she replied. Easier for everyone but me, I said quietly. There was another long pause. I didn't think about how that would make you feel, she admitted. I was so focused on making everything perfect that I overlooked your feelings. I'm sorry, Jennifer. That was wrong. Her apology caught me off guard. I had expected excuses or blame, not genuine remorse. Thank you for saying that, I said softly. But I don't know what to do now. People are comparing my wedding to Jasmine's online and saying hers was better. It's turning into a whole social media thing. I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. It made me realize the pressure she must have felt to create a flawless event, the kind that required excluding anyone who might disrupt the image. Stephanie, can I ask you something? Sure. Did you actually enjoy your wedding? What do you mean? I mean, in the moment, when you were standing there with Oliver, were you truly happy? Were you focused on him, or were you thinking about how everything looked? There was a long silence before she answered. I was thinking about how everything looked, she admitted quietly. I spent most of the day worrying about the flowers, the photos, and whether everyone was having fun. I hardly remember the ceremony itself. My heart ached for her. She had spent so much money and effort chasing perfection that she'd missed her own wedding entirely. That's the difference, I said gently. Jasmine and Oliver were completely present. They focused so deeply on each other that everything else faded away. That's what people are responding to. Not the decorations or the venue, but the real emotion. So, what should I do now? She asked softly. The vulnerability in her tone struck me. This wasn't about competing weddings anymore. It was about two very different ways of celebrating love, and the unexpected consequences of those choices. You can start by asking yourself what truly matters to you, I said. Not what looks good online or impresses others, what genuinely makes you happy. As for the social media noise, it'll fade soon. But the relationships you strained, those take time to heal. By Monday, the wedding video had reached over 200,000 views across platforms. Engagement was still growing, with comments, shares, and interview requests pouring in. Several lifestyle brands even reached out to discuss collaborations, but the biggest surprise came from my boss. Jennifer, it's Patricia, her voicemail said. I've been following your social media this weekend. Very impressive. Can you come in early today? I'd like to discuss some opportunities. I arrived at the office an hour early. Patricia was waiting with coffee and a stack of analytics. Reports explained to me how you created content that outperformed accounts with millions of followers, she said away. I walked her through the strategies, focusing on genuine emotion instead of staged perfection, and how we used captions to invite people into the story rather than just showing pretty images. You've just proven what I've been telling clients for months, Patricia said, leaning back in her chair. Authentic content always beats polished but empty marketing. People can sense what's real. It helped that the couple was truly happy, I said. That kind of emotion can't be faked. But you knew how to capture it, she replied. That's the difference. And that's why I'm offering you a promotion. Creative director for our social media division, specializing in authentic storytelling for brands. The offer was generous. More pay, more creative freedom, and the chance to lead a team developing campaigns that actually mattered. There's just one condition, Patricia added. I want you to create a case study presentation about this weekend's success. 3 major clients are interested in this approach and willing to pay premium rates for it. I accepted immediately. For the first time in my career, my instincts and values were seen as strengths, not obstacles. The rest of the week flew by in a blur of meetings, interviews, and planning for my new role. The viral momentum began to level off, but the deeper impact remained. Jasmine and Oliver's business launch was thriving, with hundreds of new inquiries from couples wanting authentic celebrations of their own. Then, on Thursday evening, my phone rang. It was my mother. Jennifer, I've been thinking about our talk, she began, her voice softer than usual, and I owe you an apology. I stayed quiet, waiting. I watched the wedding videos you worked on and read the comments. People weren't just saying it was beautiful, they said it moved them. It made them reflect on their own relationships. That was your goal, wasn't it? Yes, I said simply. I also spoke with Stephanie, she continued. She told me what you said, how she missed her own wedding because she was too worried about appearances. I think I caused that. I pushed her so hard for perfection that she forgot to enjoy her own day. Her honesty caught me off guard. Mom, let me finish, she said. I realized I did the same to you, just in a different way. I was so focused on you fitting our idea of perfect that I didn't see your real value. The work you did this weekend proved you understand something about connection that the rest of us overlooked. Tears filled my eyes. Emotions I'd been holding back finally broke through. I never wanted to compete with Stephanie, I said. I just wanted to be included. I know, she replied. Leaving you out was wrong. You could have made her wedding more meaningful, not just more expensive. We talked for over an hour. Really talked, for the first time in years. She told me about the pressure she'd felt to keep up the image of a perfect family and how that made her try to control everyone. I told her about how exhausting it had been to always shrink myself to fit in. So, what happens now? She asked, echoing Stephanie's question from earlier in the week. Now, I said, I do work that inspires me. And hopefully, we learn to be a family that supports each other, instead of managing each other. I'd like that, she said quietly. The following weekend, I received an unexpected call from Stephanie. Jennifer, I have a proposition for you, she said, sounding more energized than she had since the wedding controversy began. What kind of proposition? I asked. Daniel and I have been talking. We want to do something different. A second ceremony, but a small one. Something that focuses on us and what truly matters. And we want you to help us share that story. I was taken aback. You want to have another wedding? Not exactly, she replied. It's more of a recommitment ceremony, but done right this time. Just our close families, somewhere meaningful, centered on the commitment itself instead of the performance. And you want me to document it? We want you to help us create something authentic, something that reminds people it's never too late to refocus on what really matters. The project became one of the most fulfilling experiences of my career. Stephanie and Daniel's recommitment ceremony was held in the backyard where they'd shared their first date, surrounded by 20 guests who genuinely mattered to them. The content we produced together told a story about learning from mistakes, choosing substance over style, and having the courage to start again when you realize you've lost direction. It performed even better than the original wedding content. But more importantly, it sparked meaningful dialogue about the pressure to host perfect celebrations and the freedom found in embracing authenticity. 6 months later, I was leading a team of 5 social media strategists, working with clients who wanted to form genuine connections with their audiences instead of chasing follower counts. The promotion opened doors I never imagined, speaking engagements at conferences about authentic storytelling and creating meaningful content. But the most profound impact was within my family. We still disagreed at times and lived differently, yet there was a newfound respect for each person's strengths. My dramatic side was now seen as passion and sincerity, and my tendency to speak up was valued as leadership. Ironically, the wedding that had excluded me became the turning point for everything that followed. By being forced to find my own path, I discovered meaningful work, guiding values, and a voice people wanted to hear. 3 months after the weekend that changed everything, I sat in a Los Angeles TV studio preparing for what would become one of the proudest moments of my professional life. The lifestyle show that had once contacted Chloe and me had expanded their concept into something much bigger. What began as a simple segment about authentic weddings had evolved into a full episode titled When Real Goes Viral, The Wedding That Outshone the Family. I was scheduled to appear alongside Jasmine and Oliver, whose business had flourished after our video went viral. They'd launched a wedding planning service focused on intimate, meaningful celebrations, already booked solid for the next 18 months. The real surprise was that Stephanie had also agreed to participate. After our collaboration on her recommitment ceremony, she'd become a strong advocate for genuine celebrations and wanted to share her experience of letting go of the need for perfection. Are you nervous? Chloe asked as we watched the monitor in the green room showing the studio setup. Not nervous, I said, adjusting my blazer. Excited. This feels like the culmination of everything that started that weekend. The past few months had been transformative in ways I couldn't have predicted. My new role as creative director had exceeded every expectation, creatively and financially. My clients were seeing unprecedented engagement, and my team had built a reputation for creating campaigns that truly connected with people rather than just impressing them. Even more valuable was the platform it gave me to speak about authenticity in an industry obsessed with perfection. I'd presented at major marketing conferences, written for industry publications, and consulted with brands eager to build real relationships with their audiences. It wasn't lost on me that being left out of one family event had opened the door to everything I'd ever wanted. Jennifer Anderson, production assistant, appeared at the doorway. "We're ready for your segment." As I stepped onto the set, I felt a calm confidence, not from ego, but from knowing I was exactly where I belonged. The studio lights were bright, but the host, Maria Santos, greeted me with warmth that instantly put me at ease. "We're here with Jennifer Anderson," Maria began, the social media strategist whose wedding content went viral and sparked a national conversation about authenticity and celebration. "Jennifer, take us back to that weekend. You'd been excluded from your cousin's wedding, yet instead of staying home, you chose to film someone else's. What was going through your mind?" "Honestly, I was hurt," I admitted, settling into the rhythm of the interview. Being excluded from a family event because you're labeled too dramatic forces you to think about what that really means. For me, it meant I cared deeply about honesty and wasn't willing to pretend everything was perfect when it wasn't. And that quality, and the one your family saw as a flaw, became exactly what your audience connected with. Maria said. "Exactly," I agreed. "People are tired of content that looks perfect but feels hollow." When we shared Jasmine and Oliver's genuine emotions and real celebration, it resonated because it was real. You can't fake that kind of connection. Maria turned to a screen displaying analytics of the viral post compared to typical wedding content. "These numbers are incredible," she said. "But even more impressive is the conversation it started. Tell us about the response you received." The comments weren't just about the beautiful visuals, I explained. People were opening up about their own experiences, the stress of wedding expectations, the choice between being genuine and meeting social standards, and moments when they felt pressured to value appearances over meaning. It evolved into a shared conversation about what true celebration really means, and this moment sparked real change in your career. It did. My company recognized that I had touched on something important: how people want to connect with content on a human level. I was promoted to creative director, and now I collaborate with brands that focus on building authentic relationships with their audiences rather than chasing surface-level metrics. Maria leaned forward, signaling the conversation was about to become more personal. "But this story isn't just about career success," she said. "It's also about family relationships and the unexpected outcomes of exclusion. How has this experience changed things with the relatives who left you out?" I took a moment to respond honestly without resentment. "It made all of us reflect on what truly matters," I said. "My family was so determined to avoid conflict that they ended up creating one. But it also helped us see that our differences could be strengths rather than problems to fix." Your cousin Stephanie has since become an advocate for meaningful celebrations after her own experience. She'll be joining us after the break to share what she learned from watching your content outperform her own wedding posts. As we cut to commercial, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Not because I'd proven anyone wrong, but because I'd turned rejection into something positive that inspired thousands of others to rethink their own celebrations. When we came back, Stephanie joined us on set. She appeared poised and confident, yet there was a sincerity in her expression I hadn't seen before. "Stephanie, you had what many would call a dream wedding." Maria began, "A destination event, unlimited budget, featured in magazines. But when your cousin's content went viral that same weekend, it sparked some difficult realizations for you." "It did," Stephanie said calmly. "I spent months perfecting every detail of my wedding, yet I can barely remember getting married. I was so focused on how everything looked that I missed the meaning of it, and that insight brought change." Yes. It led Jennifer and me to plan a recommitment ceremony that reflected everything my original wedding lacked. Small, intimate, centered on Daniel and our relationship instead of public perception. The content Jennifer created for that event remains some of the most meaningful of my life. Maria turned to me. So, the family member once excluded for being too dramatic helped design the authentic celebration that had been missing before. Jennifer showed me that authenticity isn't drama, Stephanie said. Being willing to speak truthfully about what matters isn't dramatic, it's courageous. The conversation shifted when Maria addressed the broader impact of our story on the wedding industry. Jennifer, since your content went viral, we've seen a shift in how couples approach their weddings. Planners report more interest in intimate ceremonies, and authentic content now outperforms luxury-themed posts online. You've unintentionally started a movement. I don't think I started it, I said. People were already questioning why they should spend a year's salary on one day, invite guests who don't truly support them, or value photos over presents. Our content simply gave them permission to express what they already felt. Stephanie, as someone who once chose the traditional route, what would you say to couples facing pressure to go big? I'd tell them the most expensive wedding I've attended, including mine, was also the least memorable, Stephanie said. The recommitment ceremony Jennifer helped plan cost less than the flowers from my first wedding, but it was far more meaningful because it reflected who we really are. Maria displayed a side-by-side comparison of the two events' social media reach. The numbers tell the story. Stephanie's original wedding, which cost over $100,000 and appeared in a top magazine, received limited engagement. Her recommitment ceremony, costing under $3,000, was shared millions of times and encouraged countless couples to rethink their celebrations, proving authenticity holds more value than extravagance. I added, you can't buy real emotion or fake genuine connection, but you can choose to focus on what truly matters. Maria then turned to both of us. Let's talk about the family dynamic. Stephanie, your decision to exclude Jennifer was said to prevent drama, but it ultimately led her content to overshadow your wedding. How do you reflect on that now? Stephanie paused, then answered honestly, it was a mistake. We were so afraid of imperfection, of moments that didn't look perfect, that we excluded someone who could have brought real meaning. We chose the image of harmony over actual family connection. And Jennifer, how did that exclusion shape your approach to creating content? It liberated me, I said. I stopped worrying about keeping the peace or avoiding offense. I focused on telling good stories and doing meaningful work. Sometimes being pushed outside your comfort zone reveals abilities you never knew you had. That ties closely to the larger conversation about authenticity on social media, Maria observed. Jennifer, your success shows audiences want sincerity, not perfection. Exactly, I replied. Algorithms reward engagement, but engagement comes from emotion. You can't inspire emotion with perfectly staged content. People want to see themselves in the stories brands share. They want something real, not just something sold. Maria faced the camera. After the break, we'll hear from Jasmine and Oliver, the couple whose authentic wedding inspired this entire conversation, and learn how their approach has reshaped an entire industry. During the break, Stephanie turned to me. I never truly apologized for excluding you, she said softly. Not just for the act itself, but for the mindset behind it. Calling you dramatic was our way of avoiding our discomfort with honesty. Thank you for saying that, I replied. But honestly, I'm grateful it happened. If I had been there trying to fit in, I might never have discovered what I was capable of creating. When we returned, Jasmine and Oliver joined us, radiating the same joy they had on their wedding day 6 months earlier. Jasmine and Oliver, your wedding was planned in 6 weeks, cost far less than most. Yet your content has been viewed millions of times. What do you think resonated most with people? We weren't trying to impress anyone, Oliver said. We just wanted to celebrate our marriage with those who truly mattered. That honesty showed through in every photo and video, and the business we've built since reflects those same values. Our clients aren't focused on following wedding trends, Jasmine explained. They want celebrations that truly represent their relationships and values. We help couples discover what genuinely matters to them, not just what looks good online. Jennifer, you've worked with them on their social media strategy, the host continued. How do you apply what you've learned from creating viral wedding content to other businesses? The core principles remain consistent, I said. Whether you're planning a wedding or launching a brand, authenticity can't be fabricated, but it can be expressed. Our job is to help brands and individuals identify what makes them uniquely genuine and share that story in ways that foster real connection. That approach has proven remarkably effective beyond the wedding space. My clients now see engagement rates 3 to 5 times higher than the industry average, I added, because we create content that actually resonates with people. When you offer something authentic, audiences respond. Maria closed the segment by emphasizing the broader message of our story. What began as a moment of family exclusion had evolved into a case study in the power of genuine storytelling and authentic connection. Jennifer, Stephanie, Jasmine, and Oliver demonstrated that the most meaningful celebrations and the most impactful content often come from choosing substance over surface appeal. As the cameras stopped rolling, I felt a deep sense of closure. The journey that started with hurt and rejection had led to professional growth, stronger family ties, and a platform to advocate for sincerity in an industry often driven by appearance. More importantly, it confirmed something I'd always believed but never tested. Being my true self, even when it made others uneasy, was not only acceptable, but valuable. In the months following the TV appearance, opportunities arrived beyond anything I had imagined. The episode garnered over 5 million views online, and my inbox quickly filled with speaking invitations, collaboration requests, and media inquiries. But the moment that felt most rewarding came 8 months later, when I received a call from the largest social media conference in the industry. "Jennifer," the event director said, "we'd love for you to deliver the keynote address at our annual summit. Your story on authentic content creation has become essential reading for our attendees, and we want you to share your insights with the entire industry." It was a milestone many professionals spend decades working toward. The conference attracted thousands of marketers, executives, and creators from around the globe, a dream platform to speak about authenticity and meaningful engagement. As I prepared my keynote, I reflected on how far I'd come. The same family who once excluded me for being too dramatic would now see me speaking to global leaders about the importance of honest storytelling. The very traits they saw as flaws had become the foundation of my success. The irony was satisfying, but even more fulfilling was realizing that the real victory wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about showing that sincerity and real emotion could compete with, and outperform, the flawless perfection dominating social media. 2 weeks before the conference, I met my mother for lunch in Portland. Our relationship had strengthened since that conversation after the viral wedding weekend, and she had become one of my strongest supporters. "I've been thinking about what we talked about after Stephanie's wedding," she said as we sat in the same restaurant, where I had once told Chloe about being excluded. "When I accused you of trying to overshadow the family celebration, it feels like a lifetime ago." "It does," I replied. I was so intent on protecting the image of a perfect family that I couldn't see how harmful that was, for all of us. We were performing harmony instead of living it. But look how far we've come. Stephanie and I have a better relationship now than ever, and you and I can finally talk about real things instead of managing appearances. "That's true," she said softly. "But I still regret the hurt we caused. Watching you deliver that keynote next week, knowing your success grew from the qualities we once suppressed, feels like poetic justice." It really does feel like coming full circle. I agreed. The day of the keynote arrived. Backstage at the San Diego Convention Center, I looked out at an audience of 3,000 professionals. Instead of nerves, I felt a profound sense of purpose. This was my chance to share everything I had learned about the power of authenticity, not just as a marketing tool, but as a way to connect with people craving something real. 18 months ago, I began, my voice steady through the auditorium. I was excluded from a family wedding for being too dramatic for an elegant celebration. Today, I want to talk about how that experience led to the most successful content I've ever created and what it revealed about what audiences truly want from the brands and people they follow. I walked them through the entire story, from the pain of exclusion, to documenting Jasmine and Oliver's authentic celebration, to the viral success that followed. More importantly, I explained the principles that drove that success. Authenticity isn't just a buzzword, I said. It's an approach that works because it connects with what people genuinely seek from their media: real emotion and human connection. They don't want to be dazzled by perfection. They want to feel something real. I shared case studies showing how authentic content consistently outperformed polished but empty campaigns. I discussed the shift in the wedding industry toward intimate celebrations, the rise of value-driven brands, and the growing consumer demand for honesty and transparency. My family thought I was too emotional because I valued truth over harmony, I continued. What they didn't realize was that audiences crave that same honesty. They're tired of being sold an illusion. They want authenticity, relatability, and genuine emotion. The response was immediate and powerful. The audience was fully engaged, asking insightful questions about implementation, measurement, and the courage it takes to prioritize authenticity over polish. During the Q&A, a young woman stood up and said, "Your story resonates with me. I've always felt pressured to tone myself down to fit into corporate spaces. How do you stay authentic while remaining professional?" "The key," I replied, "is understanding that authenticity and professionalism are not opposites. You can be real while still being respectful of your environment. The goal isn't to share every personal detail or erase all boundaries. It's about bringing your true values, genuine passion, and honest perspective into your work." During the session, another audience member asked how to measure the success of authentic content beyond the usual numbers. I explained that the quality of engagement matters far more than the quantity. 1,000 thoughtful comments from people truly impacted by your message will always hold more weight than 10,000 casual likes. Look for signs of real connection. People sharing personal experiences, asking sincere questions, or taking meaningful action based on what you share. As the event came to a close, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment that had nothing to do with career success and everything to do with purpose. I had taken the pain of being rejected by my family and turned it into a message that helped others find the strength to be authentic in their professional lives. The standing ovation that followed felt like recognition not just of my professional growth, but of my decision to transform exclusion into empowerment, pain into purpose, and rejection into positive change. 6 months later, my family gathered again for my grandmother's 80th birthday. But this time, the experience was entirely different. Instead of pretending to be a perfect family, we were genuinely enjoying being together. Instead of managing emotions to prevent conflict, we were having real conversations about our lives and experiences. During the celebration, Stephanie approached me privately. "I've been thinking," she said. "Do you remember what you told me after my wedding? About how the internet moves fast, but relationships take longer to heal?" I nodded. "I think you were wrong about the first part," she continued. "Your story hasn't faded. If anything, it's grown stronger over time. You've created something lasting." Looking around at my family, who had now learned to value sincerity over superficial peace, I realized she was right. The viral wedding story had only been the start. The real transformation was in how we now approached relationships, both personal and professional, with honesty and openness instead of perfection. The family member once dismissed as too emotional for caring about truth had become the one who inspired others to appreciate authenticity. What once felt like an ending had actually been the start of something meaningful. Those who had orchestrated my exclusion faced consequences that went well beyond online embarrassment. My mother spent months in therapy, coming to terms with how her pursuit of appearances had harmed her relationship with her children. Stephanie's marriage struggled under unrealistic expectations, leading to a separation that forced both her and Daniel to reflect on what they truly wanted. Extended relatives who had taken part in my exclusion gradually drifted from the core family, unable to keep up with the deeper, more genuine connections that emerged when we stopped pretending and started being real. Now, as I sit in my home office surrounded by the awards and opportunities that grew from that painful weekend, I can see how perfectly it all unfolded. The same family that once thought I was too dramatic to include gave me exactly what I needed, the freedom to grow beyond their limits. Sometimes, the greatest gift people can give you is their rejection, because it pushes you to create something far better than what they ever offered in the first place.